Tracy, that clock on the wall is correct, is that right? Huh? All right. All right. It's what? I will call the March 18th work session of the Christiansburg Town Council to order. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? Hearing none, we have two items. One is a presentation, rezoning request by Madison Apartment Homes LLC and Madison Apartment Homes 2 LLC. Property owner and applicant for an amendment to proffers of the tax parcel 634A-8A, 643A-8B, consisting of approximately 7.9 acres located in the intersection of Peppers Ferry Road, New Village Drive, and Bozeman Trail. The property is zoned multifamily residential R3 with proffers, and the request is to amend proffers accepted with 2020 rezoning action. The property is designated as residential in the future land use map of the 2013 comprehensive plan. So, council, we have a public hearing on this coming Tuesday night, but we've asked Mr. Fralin if he would give a brief, long, whatever, a presentation on what his requests are. Robert?
Thank you, Mayor Barber. Good to see all of you. I am going to introduce you to Wynn Overstreet. She's been with us quite some time now. You've met her before. She does a wonderful job. She's going to present to you, and I'm going to answer any questions along with Mr. Simonis. We will be brief because we know you have lots of other business here. So, but it is good to see all of you, and I'm here for questions.
Good evening, Mayor and council members and staff. Thank you for taking the time to hear us. This is our first time participating in work session, so I'm excited that we might be able to be a little more interactive as we go through the presentation. And I'll try to be brief and happy to answer any questions that you might have along the way. And then, of course, Robert and Steve are here for any more technical background or history related to the application. Let's see if we're clicking through. No, clicking. Oh, I got it. I was just making you get some steps. Thank you very much. So we're here to talk about our Madison Apartment Home Project and request to amend these proffers to be able to build more units and provide some housing to the town. As it has been very clear with our current buildings that housing is needed and they fill up quickly. We have absolutely no vacancy. So this is just an overview of the project.
If you will speak directly into the microphone.
Can you hear me?
As much as possible.
I would love to.
For recording purposes.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I will. So I'll look this way. Is that better?
That or you can just take a microphone in your hand.
And walk around? Yeah, that's good. So good reviews overall so far for our Madison project. It's been very successful and very popular. And just showing the overview of the property and then some of the finishes you folks are familiar with, I think, since we've come into the area and is consistent with our other projects. So overview here, this is showing kind of a colored version of our history and the connection that we've tried to make and the effort. So Madison Land for Walters, the connection from the project over to Walters. So we, really Robert, in history with some of these landowners here, Ms. Grubb and Mrs. Chapman acquired 3 separate pieces to try to make this connection work over the past 6 or so years. So you see those parcels in the green hatched over at the top, kind of coming down in the pink, and then the last spite strip that was acquired to try to make this connection work all the way through. And then the squiggly purple line is what would be the proposed road. So we assimilated those 3 very quickly after 2 weeks of the approved rezoning, and then have been working with landowners and engineers since to try to make this work. But there was too little time from the proffer to verify feasibility from the town council meeting in 2020. And the third point there, that arrow shows the pinch point that is too narrow to meet town standards to install that road. Here's another view of that parcel in relation to the property and the current project. Steve might use this one more. Another view for you folks to see what we're trying to achieve. In red there, you'll see some measurements in the distance. I think it's right under 42, and I believe, Steve can correct me if I'm wrong, 50 feet is the minimum requirement to install that road. Here's another layout of Madison showing the two green circles are showing that we have two entrances and exits for emergency egress. And from some discussion with staff and feedback, we are installing where that red square is assigned to note to any traffic, no left turn out, which I know has been a concern on Peppers Ferry. Originally, as I understand it from this proffer, the goal is to get some connectivity. So this slide shows that there is a future connection point there along New Village Drive going into Caldwell. Thank you, Caldwell property. So that is present should that property be developed. Continuous improvement is better than delayed perfection. So great quote, something to consider as you're considering our request. And I'd love to take any questions.
Thank you.
If council
And
has
of course,
any.
you realize we will not make any decisions tonight. It
absolutely.
will probably be the last meeting in March before we reach any type of decision. Public hearing will be Tuesday night.
Yeah.
Any questions at this point?
Yes. Phase 1 has been completed, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
What is the capacity right now? Is the first phase already full? Are all of the apartments rented out, or they are?
They are.
How many units?
72 now, and then we have 60 more apartments and 14 townhomes that we would love to provide to Christiansburg. I know the optics of this aren't great, but I can tell you, I said this at Planning Commission, I feel like I brought all my work home to my mom, and I said, I've really, really, really worked hard. You cannot believe how hard I worked. And she said, well, you still got a D. And to assimilate these parcels and to work with AEP and to do the work we've done, I can tell you we have really, really worked hard, and we spent a lot of money on it. It's just not feasible. And we ended with that quote. I hope you don't take it the wrong way. We just thought it was kind of appropriate, like, don't let perfect get in the way of great type of thing. So that's where we are. But to answer your questions, it was 72 and then 60 and then 14 towns. 72
units, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 4.
2/3 twos, 1/3 ones.
And the rent
No
factors?
threes, except the townhomes would have threes.
What's the rent factors?
Are we at 1,500 for a 1-bedroom and 17 for a 2?
We're at, I think, 13, 15, 16.
Okay.
16 for 2.
Okay.
It fluctuates up and down depending on where we are, but it's too much, really. I mean, we just provide to the market, and we do believe that the more units creates less demand, which drives down price and makes it more affordable. It's not a sales pitch; it's the truth. But obviously, we're here. We don't do this for charity, and I don't want to pretend we do. I mean, it's just I just want to be honest. But I think we can absolutely provide a product that future town residents and existing town residents absolutely need. I think we're good at it. I think our price point's lower than everybody else's.
Can I ask you a question? As far as the, I'm sorry, I haven't been able to meet with you. I was out of the country with my
That's okay.
dinosaur.
I was just in Cartagena, by the way.
Oh, cool.
Crazy enough, but yeah, go ahead.
I was too.
In Cartagena?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
As far as the proffers, if we were to remove these proffers, what would you be willing to do with that line?
Well, the history with Miss Grubb, who's no longer with us, and Miss Chapman, who's her daughter, I would like to get it back to them. The Grubb family, and Mike was actually on town council when I rezoned the New River Village property. which was in a different building in the same site. And they have been awesome from day one. They've been just terrific. And I don't think they wanted this to be successful. They were just kind. I paid them for it. So I'd like to give it back to them in some capacity. I do think I cannot imagine a scenario that one day that Caldwell property doesn't develop. And if it develops, that is going to be a connection to Walters, because I think Mike would let you know the town wouldn't allow not to connect. But that's not today. But I would give it to the town if that's where you're leaning, Ms. Hicks. I would be happy to do it, but I would love to be as accommodating to Ms. Chapman as I can. She just lost her mother.
Okay.
So I don't think you got my question correctly.
Okay.
Because if we remove the proffers on this land, you mentioned that you will give the property to the Grove family, which I think that's terrific. But I don't think that was what
That
you
wasn't your
meant.
question.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Basically, what's
How-
that for us?
Exactly.
Basically, what you're offered to us is there an offer to us to let you out of this proffer? I mean, like $2 million to a sidewalk fund,
I
or
think we're kind of dealing with the two wrongs and a right sort of situation, but maybe not. But the question really is, does the town of Christiansburg benefit from this type of housing in a place where there are 2 points of emergency access and a future connectivity? And I don't really know the rules of what I can do up here on a podium, what you can invite or what I can do.
no, we're not doing anything tonight. That's just
No,
food.
I know,
That's
but
just
what
food for thought.
I haven't even thought of. I mean, what I can provide is I'm do some math.
Are you planning to build
I
any
can
properties?
provide about $18 million into the economy
Are you,
immediately. And that's a big deal. Like,
Sure it
I
is.
mean, people think developers make all this money, and honestly, 9 out of 10 would go bankrupt. And we were just looking at our balance sheets and income statements and our cash and everything, and yeah, we do well. And I put literally 90% of retained earnings back in the business over the last 20 years, thanks to Christiansburg and Park, because I've just really, really loved being up here and been up here a lot. But it's not easy, and all these projects don't work. And so what we will provide is a lot of money into this economy immediately, and provide housing that's needed. But as far as some kind of other deal, I'm happy to talk about something.
Well, I don't know.
really know.
I-
so I think
Go ahead, I'm sorry, go on.
I think when I was asking for this, there was a proffer that was made, which it was for you to be required to build that road connection road, and it was to alleviate some of the traffic. And so, if you are not building that road, what you're saying is that your plans are to give all of that land to the Grove family, or are you planning to build on those pieces of properties? Because what are you trying to do where that land was assumed to be a road?
Ms. Hicks, if we go back a slide, they're all non-conforming lots. One of them's a spite strip. The other's a carve-out from Ms. Grubb. The other's a carve-out from Ms. Chapman. There's no developable right to them. Now, they can be combined with Ms. Grubb and Ms. Chapman's existing pieces and then be developed. But there's no way to develop that land in any way as it sits right there. There's just no way.
So for us to be able to give you the permission before to build the 72 units, you actually, I think you guys are the ones that came up with the idea to give us that connection road. Isn't that correct? I believe that was correct.
Our proper
Proffer
works.
that was discussed by Councilman Stipes
And
maybe
Mr. Showalter.
Councilman Showalter.
Yeah.
We
Showalter
volunteered
was a
that
no.
proffer. There's
Okay.
no
That's
doubt
what
about
I
it.
thought.
We did
So-
not feel like we were going to have a successful outcome. We were a bit surprised because we had 2 points of egress and ingress, but the sentiment at the time with a different council was, heck no, need more. We want that connectivity, and we would rather have that than housing. I don't find that logical, but I don't vote. And so I think the housing's more important. That's why we ended. Do you mind going back to Mark Twain? That's why we ended with that, because look, there is no perfect anything, and we believe that, perfect is oftentimes the enemy of great.
Has a new traffic study been done, conducted for this?
Thanks. I'm happy to come back up, and thanks for your
Yeah, absolutely.
So we did Ms. Hicks, we did a traffic study according to town staff in 2020 when we got the original zoning approved.
Yeah, but not after the 72 homes were built,
Right,
right?
but, and let me explain. So when we did the original traffic study, we were actually looking at, would a signal be required at New Village Drive? That was the impetus of that study. So we did traffic counts at that intersection and actually traffic counts at Walters. And the study we did projected the full build out of the apartments, so all 100 and
72 plus 74.
yeah, so the full build out of this project that we're talking about, as well as 69 additional homes that were approved back in 2012, 2013, maybe before that. This was called Ivy Ridge. It was a project we did with Robert. Started, I think, in 2005, we started on that project. So we included all the build out of this area right here, as well as future build out on that. And none of even with full build out of that, it didn't trip into any threshold. So we didn't do an updated traffic study because the traffic study that we did was still showing a full build out that we're not to yet. So we are a few years down the road, and I went back today and just looked at the projected or the estimated VDOT trips, the VDOT estimates on Peppers Ferry Road over the years. And they do a growth factor on that, and Scott's a VDOT expert and could speak to this probably better than I can, but they do estimate that growth on most of the roads in an urban area like this going up. So while Peppers Ferry traffic has increased according to VDOT data from 2020 to where it's published up to 2024 right now, we still haven't fully built out that project. So, and that was all done prior. So just from a timing standpoint, we did that study during the initial, the very beginning parts of this rezoning request. So this had, the traffic study we did had nothing to do with this other little piece. This third connection kind of came towards the end of the process. So the traffic study that we did showed everything was working here with just 2 access points. So if we had a third one in there, that just made the traffic study we did even better, if that makes sense. But what we did at the time was just look at the 2 entrances at New Village Drive and Bozeman Trail with a full build out, and they were all operating well under any threshold to have to put a traffic signal out there.
Are there any plans, maybe this is for our staff, are there any plans for the traffic light off of Pepper Street on New Village by any chance, or off of Walton?
I'm not sure. Plans for a traffic light at.
No, it doesn't meet the warrants as of right now. That's one of the things that he outlined in his traffic study. There's not enough of a need for that, for a traffic light.
If there was one to be installed, if there was one to be installed and needed to be installed, will that fall on the town, or can we,
When a developer meets the warrants for a traffic signal, the developer is responsible for installing that.
and what are the requirements again?
I'll send them to you as a follow-up.
That'd be great.
There's 13 warrants, I think, and you have to meet at least one of them, and I don't think.
We
this
didn't
is
meet
one of
any.
them.
Because I know the traffic is thick.
And when was the
And-
traffic study again?
When was it? 2020.
Scott, would you send that to me as well?
Yes, ma'am. I'll send it everybody.
How many developments have we had since 2020 over on Peppers Ferry? I know there's been a lot of stuff going on over there.
Most of them are further into town. So the way that traffic, the way we looked at the traffic study as we looked at it with the town is, I believe it was, well, I've got it sitting right here, 85% of the trips, we estimated to use that access point. So we were estimating on the high side as far as the number of trips using New Village. And the directional traffic flows more towards Blacksburg in the mornings and then back towards this site in the afternoon. You don't have that same traffic. It's not as much traffic going towards Radford. So where I'm going with that, Ms. Waltz, is, you know, a lot of the development we've seen in Christiansburg is on the other side of this site, so it's not passing by this, you know, this development as much as this development here passing by, you know, Walters Drive, Clifton Town Center, the mall. So that development that's happening between New Village Drive and Franklin Street per se, most of that traffic is heading back towards the bypass in Blacksburg and downtown.
Didn't you guys just build those within the last 6 years, though? The ones over there off of New Village on the right side, though?
These,
Yeah.
we did those plans, Robert, in 2011 maybe, for the townhomes? It's been a while. Okay.
Man, time is just flying.
Any other comments or questions?
I'm a little bit unprepared, but I had a question regarding Bozeman Trail. When you originally came to council and made that proffer, why did you not secure that land before you made that proffer is kind of where I'm.
Wynn did a really good job. One of the confusing parts is it wasn't after the rezoning, it was before the rezoning. So we passed planning commission, well, you know, we had a picture in the last one, Ms. Umberger probably saw it, about 2 different ways to look at a person, and you either see one thing or another. And so we saw this really, rezoning that was just gonna be really easy. And we, at the last minute after planning commission, we got into this, wait a second, despite your 2 accesses for EMS, we want you to get to Walters, and I thought, that's impossible. I can't get there. And then we looked at it, and then I figured out who owned what, and I figured out the Grubbs and the Chapmans were part of it. And I just worked as hard as I possibly could, coming up here, meeting with people, paying them. Got Billy Matty, I don't know if you know Billy, but he represented the people he knew the people, and he represented them to talk about a spite strip. So it's essentially we just made do with what we had, just to try to salvage the entire process. And I think the town's better for it. It got the housing there, and we, in good faith, and Steve he can ask any technical questions as to why we thought then we could do it. I wouldn't have bought all that if I didn't think we could do it. But you know, it's just not, it's turning out infeasible.
You mentioned that they supported the project, so is there a reason that they wouldn't, where we wouldn't have seen something where they came back and said, hey, we want to offer this parcel up? Because I'm really confused by why you would not have had that property beforehand when you made the proffer. I mean, to me, that's a big issue. A proffer is like a promise to the citizens. It's a legal promise. And
Right. We were in a situation where we were either going to build no units or do what we thought we could do and get a road in that we always thought, and I'm not here to tell traffic, I'm not an engineer, but we never believed that it needed to go in. I still don't believe it. I don't think my engineer believes it. But we are at the mercy of the people that make decisions. And so I presented this, not Mr. Sipes, let's just be clear. I presented this as a compromise to be able to provide some housing here. And I would like to provide more. I think we proved we don't need that connection. We've also proved there's another connection that's actually going to do that where it should go, and not a squiggly, weird sort of way. So anyway, that's how it, Ms. Walls, that's how it went down. If you got any other questions about it, I might be unclear. I'm happy to answer it.
It's really difficult for when there is this proffers made, which they are promises, and I truly believe in what Mrs. Walls had said, that when you make this promise to the citizens, and it's a promise to us too that are sitting here, and it can be a different council back then, but it seems like, oh yeah, let's just put that in there. And we go through a lot of these rezonings and all kinds of stuff through the process. And one of the problems that I have with this, to be honest with you, starting from the very beginning right now, is the fact that we do this for you. Everybody has the ability to come back and say, hey, we had that proffer back before. It's so easy just to promise them something and then get rid of it later. And he opens up the doors for us to be able to get rid of proffers after we have allowed you to do this. And I mean, there's a lot of more things that I gotta look into this, obviously. I actually didn't see this agenda until now, and then I didn't realize you guys were coming in here to speak about this today. Otherwise, I would have done a little bit more research, but remembering what,
You'll have another shot at it.
yeah, I understand, but remembering from those conversations from before, when Mr. Stipes and Showalter, now Mr. Showalter lives right behind these properties too, which is interesting. I really want to ask a lot of the you know, I'm sure I will have a lot more questions, but that's one of those concerns that I want to get to the bottom of, because if we do this for you guys now, what does it mean for the future?
Let me see just two things, Ms. Hicks. First of all, it isn't, when you have a developer or any other citizen or any other petitioner that's made the efforts we've made in absolute good faith, I think that's a different scenario. And then, let's face it, the people that are against things come and speak to you folks, and that the people that are for it rarely show up. And if you were to take everybody on the, I guess that's the eastern side of Walters, which is a lot of people, and you were to poll them and ask them if they want that road, 99% of them would say, heck no. So what the people want is important. And what we said we do is important. But the necessity of it is really what we're talking about. Like, is it really needed? So anyway, Steve, you go ahead.
Yeah, and this may help Ms. Waltz too. So as we were looking at this, when this idea of maybe proffering this in here came up, we did a real quick look. You know, we took GIS, we took some aerial photography, and we really did, between our team and Robert's team, we thought we were going to have enough room to get a 50-foot right-of-way in there. When we actually went out and surveyed it after it, you know, what we ran into is we could pick up another 9.5 feet right here, but what it does is it put Miss Grubb's property into a non-conforming setback. So we have to have 25 feet from the rear of a house to a setback, or to a right-of-way line. So that's as close as we could get this line to her property. She would have been open to selling more, but we would have put her house out of compliance from a zoning perspective.
Wasn't she the previous owner of all that property in the first place? Yeah. So you had the ability to speak with her before all this.
Well,
Who owns the corner down here
did
on
speak
the,
with
who owns the corner down here where there's like those little lines off of Walters Drive?
Yeah, I think.
This right here?
No, on the right there.
This is all AEP.
Okay.
And we've been working with AEP over the last 6 years as well to try to see if there's a way to work with them to bring a road across as well, but we've not made any headway with that. That's why we're back. We're not back to try to get out of anything. We're back because it's been 6 years. We've worked on multiple iterations of how a road could connect in here. We've met with Mike, you know, and his team a number of times. Could we do a one-way street? Could we do a private street?
But building roads costs us money, and that was also one of the things obviously you want to obviously try not to do, because it does
This
cost
isn't a
money.
cost issue, Ms. Hicks. This is not a cost issue. Robert would have built this road 3 years ago if we had a place to build it. I promise you it's not a cost issue. It's the fact we physically can't get a road in here. Unfortunately, Ms. Grubb has passed. The family does not want to deal with any additional, you know.
If we were to talk to the AEP and try to see if the town can get in the middle and try to get some connection information for you guys to talk to them, is there a possibility you guys can talk to AEP and see?
We have been talking to AEP for 2.5 years.
Oh, I thought I misunderstood.
Yeah,
that you
no,
were-
we have been working with AEP. I mean.
And what is their comment regarding this?
We've got, you know, they've got to still got to maintain access to their property. If we start building over here, we'd end up having to have stormwater management on their side as well. So it's not just, can they give us 50 feet so we can put a road in? It gets into some of the bigger infrastructure concerns from AEP's standpoint, so that they can still maintain their facility, access in there with the trucks and everything else. So we have been actively working with their real estate team for, like I said, at least 2.5 years.
Okay. Anything else?
All right, I just,
Thank you.
Sorry to take so much of your time.
Oh, no, you
That's-
did well.
thank you, guys.
So the next part of the agenda, I will turn over to Dr. Eagle and Katie and Scott and all concerned. So
Thank you, Mayor.
There we go. Thank you, Mayor. So tonight is a very, very high-level overview of where we stand on the budget development. And I believe this is different from the process you've utilized in the past. So I wanted to talk about that for just a minute before we go through the slides. So in part, this is a strategy conversation for my benefit, being selfish. Being new, transitioning in, I'll present your recommended budget or the manager's recommended budget next week, but it's really important for me to check my approach, check some of my assumptions, share with you what I've seen so far before I finalize the recommendation to bring to you. So in addition to talking about what I'm hearing from our departments, and I want to give them a shout out, the department heads are here, and they have all allocated about 2.5 hours to spend with me individually. That's been extremely helpful in putting this together. So I want to check some of my assumptions, some of my observations to inform what I bring you next week. I want to go through the calendar too. In addition to that, I'll walk through the schedule for the work sessions, and I want to offer each of you an individual sit-down with me and Katie and Scott to go through the recommendation, because I want to hear from you directly and give you ample time to ask questions and have a dialogue. I will tell you there are more needs than we have funding.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not a new thing, right? However, I'm really encouraged because there are so many opportunities that we have that I'll talk about as I kind of go through the recommendation. So there won't be a lot of numbers tonight because I am wrapping up all of my conversations with the department heads. We are scrubbing all of the numbers on the operating side and the capital side. So ask me questions as we move through. So thank you. Do you want me to do it or you got it? I think I got it. Okay, so just briefly, this is kind of the agenda in terms of the flow for the conversation. I want to go over the calendar and the kind of the process leading up to adoption. I've got some extremely high-level information on revenue projections that I want to talk about. I want to talk about the operating requests from the departments at a high level, and the two words that have come to my mind continually through this process have been modernization and resiliency. So I will frame the budget message next week and some of our conversation around how these items really prepare the town for the future. In some places, we have some catch-up work to do. I feel like we're behind from my analysis. But again, all of these are opportunities that we have. I will share an extremely high-level overview of the capital projects. I have for you a detailed spreadsheet on the capital projects. I would like to have a work session dedicated to the capital. But I have a takeaway for you tonight that lists the information that I've received on the capital. And then there have been several questions around reserves. So I've got that included tonight to talk about as well. And then, of course, next steps. So please stop me as we go through if you have questions. So tonight's the 18th, that conversation that I wanted to have around your priorities and where our opportunities lie. The recommendation will be next Tuesday. As always, you'll receive your book. My plan is to have a high-level executive summary to accompany the book for you. I call it the Manager's Budget in Brief. And we will go through that recommendation. And then I would like to request, we can firm this up later, we don't have to do this now, but I would like to request that we add a work session on April the 14th before your regular meeting to have a conversation on the capital request, just the capital budget. Then looking at the 22nd, have another work session. At that session, I would like to have our police chief come. I would like for him to talk specifically, about anything you would like to ask him, but specifically, my goal would be to have him share around the service contract that we have for body cameras, because there's some cost coming up in that space that I want you to hear directly from him about. In addition to the police department conversation on the night of the 22nd, I would like to spend some time on the operating budget in detail. So my goal would be to have individual sessions with any of you that would like to before the 22nd to get your questions and your downloads so that I can make sure in working with staff that I've answered all of your questions. Then we tentatively plugged in a public hearing on the budget on the 28th of April, which will be a part of your regular meeting. I've got an aggressive goal in here of doing adoption on May the 12th. As you know, we have to adopt by law by the end of June, but we have tentatively put May the 12th in for adoption. So that is the calendar as I've currently mapped it out. So let's talk a little bit about some of the revenue projections. So as you know, the county administrator did her proposed budget, I think it was just last week, and proposed a 5-cent increase on the county budget. And we're monitoring that and the town of Blacksburg in terms of what they're looking at on some of their budget requests, just by way of context, not directly related to our budget. So we're looking at projections on real estate tax to increase slightly because of natural growth that we're seeing in the market. We're monitoring these numbers weekly. Katie and I talk almost daily about where we stand relative to anticipating revenue projections. My bias is to be fiscally conservative. I never want to miss a projection, so I will err on the side of being conservative on the revenue projections. We're monitoring sales tax as well. We're sensing that there, excuse me, is an impact of inflation on sales tax. It has dipped down a little bit. So we are anticipating potentially decreasing our estimate in the budget for next year for sales tax. Meals and lodging are tracking well. As you know, we are slightly higher than most in the state on the meals and lodging. Those provide a significant amount of our revenue, and based on how those are trending, they will both slightly increase modestly. The lodging tax we may hold level, but again, a conservative approach. So no significant change in the special revenue funds, but I do want to spend some time talking about the cemetery fund. And you can pass this around. I am a huge fan of benchmarking against our peers to inform how we put our budget together and how we approach service delivery. Jim and his folks have put together this that I'm sending around to you concerning Sunset Cemetery and where our fees stand. If you look at the benchmarks there that are coming around, there's an opportunity to increase those fees modestly to keep us more in line with what some of our competitors are or our peer benchmarks. That is, of course, completely up to council, but I wanted you to have the benefit of the research. That's an area where we are likely in a position that the general fund is subsidizing the cemetery fund. So at a minimum, we want to be aware of that, right? If the council makes a policy decision to change those fees, then that would address the issue of general fund subsidizing cemetery. But the case could be made that that's a fee for service. So wanted you to have the benefit of that. We'll talk about it in more detail later, but just food for thought. Any questions on that?
Yeah, can I ask you something? Well,
Sure.
Can you go back on the real estate tax revenue?
Sure.
Projected to increase, obviously, yes, since, but I am not for tax increase as far as the real estate. We were to increase the number. Is there, are you hoping to have a tax increase
No,
in the
ma'am.
town? Okay.
No, ma'am.
Thank you.
I will not recommend a
Just-
tax increase.
Thank you.
Yep.
I appreciate that clarification.
Yep.
And as far as the cemetery stuff, I'm kind of confused a little bit. Which one is the current one right now? What is it that is the one on the bottom? Oh,
These are comparisons.
oh, I'm
appreciate
sorry, I
you
was
put
looking
this
for that.
together.
Okay,
That way
got
we
it.
get at
I'm sorry,
Yep.
it's just kind of quick on me.
I'm sorry. So I kind of brushed over that pretty quickly.
Yeah,
but,
that's okay. Thanks.
So you can see the history there at the bottom, and be happy to go over it in more detail.
So what you want, the numbers on the left is what we currently charge, like 700, and then you want to go to 1,200, or?
No, that's what it
These
is
are
right
just
now.
comparisons from other cemeteries.
It's from 700
in
to
the
1,200
area.
is then.
So do you have a number that you want to see it changing to, or?
Yep. At the very bottom of the page, Ms. Hicks.
Suggested going from 850 to 9.
Yeah, yeah. So the sim-
Weekdays and 1350 from 1150 on.
How are you reading this? I'm sorry.
yeah, yeah. The cemetery fees haven't been increased since 2021.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So got it.
So that would be
I'm
the
sorry.
recommendation. No, you're
Got it.
good. You're good. And
Jet
yeah.
lag, jet lag.
Yeah. Yeah. So you
It's
guys
been a
can,
long
yeah,
day.
no, I understand. So
A
you
long
guys
3
can
days.
spend some time with this, and we'll talk about it later. I just wanted you to have the data. Are we good for me to move on?
Yes.
Okay. So enterprise funds, this is another area where, based on my analysis and conversations with staff, that I believe we have an opportunity. Doing a rate methodology analysis, I believe, will be important for water and sewer, and looking at an analysis of the cost to deliver that service. Again, that's fee-based. So we're anticipating for next year that the revenue will be level. There is no rate increase for water and sewer going to be recommended in my budget. I know that last year the rates were increased by $1, and I understand and have talked with staff about the logic around the dollar. I would be more comfortable doing a more detailed analysis of our rate, and look at the opportunities so that you all have more data to make a decision around water and sewer rates. And the reason I say that is because if we're in a position where one class of customer is subsidizing another class, at a minimum, you guys need to know that. And I'm speaking about commercial and residential. So I think there's work to be done and an opportunity to improve how we do that. I would like for you all to have the choice to go to a conservation rate if that's a policy decision you would like to have. Many places, the more water you use, the more you pay. And there's lots of details wrapped up in how that could work. But I'm impressed by our water sewer operation, and I think taking us to the next level, doing a deep dive on the service delivery analysis in terms of the cost of service and the rate methodology would be an important next step.
Now, you mentioned you're not looking at an increase does that take into consideration the water loss study that we've just done?
So we're looking through the water loss study now. It is based on a very preliminary review. The recommendations coming out of that will need to be phased. There's a cost associated with that, but then there's also a revenue recovery aspect. There's a capacity aspect, and savings to be had from water that we're not getting revenue for that's being lost. So that will factor directly in, Ms. Waltz, to the methodology review. That's
Are
what
we going to have the ability to see that report, since I know it's been, you say it was on your desk?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I would like to share that. I would like to finalize your committee approach, which I know is a conversation for next week, and go ahead and get the water sewer committee rolling so you could take a look at that study. But we'll be happy to share it with the full council.
Last year, we had a significant water loss when we had the storms and stuff. I know that the town had applied to get some reimbursement money from that. Do you happen to know if we got any of that money?
The FEMA money?
Uh-huh.
We did. Unfortunately, I've purged those numbers from my head, but we did receive recovery money from both Hurricane Helena and the ice storm last year. We got federal dollars from FEMA.
Will you be able to send us an email this week?
Sure, be happy to.
That'd be amazing. Thank you.
Yep. I know typically the benchmark standard across the nation from American Water Works Association is roughly 12% water loss is pretty typical.
Yeah.
We're in the 30s, so we have a big opportunity. Yep, but we can talk about that more as we get into it. I've put on the right-hand side the cost of a penny on the tax rate just for information. Like I said, I'm not recommending a tax increase. But if you look at the real estate tax, we're at currently 14 cents per $100 of assessed value. 1 penny is equal to $325,000, and then you can see the value of the other categories just as information for context.
I appreciate the fact that you put those numbers in there, especially like meal stocks and everything else, showing that those numbers are pretty high.
They are. Okay?
Can I ask you something? Is there a possibility to see if that is having a big impact as far as like being able to have new restaurant businesses moving into the area, especially non-franchises?
We could probably do some analysis on that, whether or not it's an influencing factor when folks determine whether or not to locate
Because I
in
know we
Christiansburg.
hear a lot of that on Facebook and stuff like that, and people are always commenting the reason why you shouldn't open a restaurant in Christiansburg is because of the high meal stocks. And I mean, there's always a comment about that. There was a post the other day about, like what would you guys like to see as far as restaurants in the towns or whatever. And there were a lot of comments in there regarding, well, definitely don't go into Christiansburg. Their their meal stocks is through the roof.
Okay.
And that's the reason why nobody wants to go and open a restaurant there. And I kind of want to see if that's actually a realistic information. Obviously, looking at it from a perspective of being a business owner, I can see it being very big. Obviously, it's definitely really large.
Yeah.
12.8 is definitely really high.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what we could find, but we'll be happy to take a look at it.
Of course, the our rate's 7.5.
Yeah, but
But the state, you're gonna pay the 5 1/4, whatever
I
it is,
agree.
anywhere.
Wherever
open a
you go,
restaurant
yeah.
Anywhere in town, or in the state, so that's a fee on top of it.
yeah, I understand. But I just kind of want to see if that is, because if we are able to lower it, let's first say, this is speculation. I know we count on the meal stocks that's one of the highest revenues that we have for the town. But if we were to cut it down 1%, and then we were to instead have all kinds of restaurants moving into the area, will that make a big difference for us? I want to see if there was, if you move money from here, will that make a significant impact somewhere else?
Okay. All right, thank you. So this is a summary of the operation requests that are currently still under review in my office. I can tell you from a staffing perspective, 20 new full-time positions have been requested. That's across all departments. Our staff is our most valuable asset. They do the work every day. So what I have asked of departments is to share with me their justification, their workload data, the demand, the impact, the requested position would have on outcomes for the citizens. So I will unpack that next week when we go through the recommendation, because even if there are positions that I cannot recommend because we cannot afford them, I will give you insight into what the request was, because I believe it's really important for you all as the policymaking board to understand the needs. I won't show you any wish list needs, and we don't have that problem here in terms of departments loading up wish list items. I will bring you the ones that are real, and the vast majority of the 20 are real. So that puts me in a position to share from the departmental perspective, but also share with you what I view as any potential impacts or consequences if we can't afford to add to our employee base. What is my plan to still continue to deliver the service? Is there any impact on the existing employees, and how do we manage that and mitigate that? It's really kind of a comprehensive look at the needs and how we still meet the service delivery demands, even if we don't add everything that the department heads are telling me that they need. So in addition to that, the cost of recruitment and retention is an important one to think about in terms of staff turnover, training cost, et cetera. So taking care of our existing employee base is an important part of the budget. So yes, ma'am.
Are you able to let us know on any of this information that you have for the work session as far as the recruitment? How is it going for other positions that we currently have open? So for example, I know in Public Works, we have had an immense amount of employees we have needed for years now. How are we doing on that? Where is the money going if it's not being spent on that? Is it going for extra, overtimes, or what are we doing with that? Is that going into a general fund? Where is that going? And then, obviously, are you going to sit with us individually as far as those new positions you're saying, or how is that going to?
Yep. So I will share that next week in the presentation. You'll see that in the materials, but then absolutely when we sit individually, I can go through any of them, all of them, in any detail you like. Yep. I will not be recommending 20. It's cost prohibitive, but I want to tell you about all of them.
And what about some of the suggestions that I was making, trying to see if we can have the ability to, I know these are full-time employees. Do you have anything, have you started thinking about maybe recruiting for some part-time positions that maybe are not the 40-hour employees, but the 30-hour employees or so forth?
That's a conversation that I'm starting with Human Resources, along with some other creative options for how we meet the needs. So, yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so
Yep.
much.
So to your other question, if we're carrying vacancies in a given department, and we can add that to the presentation next week, or at least to some of my speaking points relative to what vacancies we have in each department, because that's important context for considering new positions. It does impact overtime in some cases, because existing employees have to work overtime to cover those vacancies. And that money that's funding those salaries stays in that budget, and then at the end of the year, any that's left over would roll to fund balance. Yep. But I'll be happy to include that as a part of the conversation on staffing next week.
Just to clarify, there are two acronyms on here. I'm guessing COLA is
Cost of living adjustment, I'm sorry.
That's
yes,
okay.
ma'am.
Everybody else probably knows that. And then RFP.
Request for proposals.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So that's a good segue. So, I've looked at what our primary local competitors are including in their budget. The Montgomery County and Blacksburg are both including 4% total for their employees. It's important that we don't fall behind. And a big part of looking at the market rate for our jobs is doing a compensation study to evaluate what the fair market rate is for each job on some basis. Yes, ma'am.
Do you remember when the last compensation study was done?
2018. So it's a really it's difficult to catch up when you don't do one at least every other year or so. Because the best position to be in my perspective, is to be able to phase what you need to put in place to keep folks where they need to be.
And I'm going to go backwards for 1 second. When we're talking about these 20 positions, last year we kind of put a hold on fire and rescue because of the study.
Yes,
Are
ma'am.
we still on a hold because of the study?
I'm evaluating that currently. I will say that the study results are not lining up exactly perfectly with the timing of the budget. We just received a really, really, really rough draft of the study. So I'm just not sure at this point in time how much the study will inform that question.
Thank you.
Yep. So what I've got in here tentatively is a 3% cost of living effective July the 1st, and then I would like to push pause on the merit pay plan. And let me tell you why. My perspective is that for merit to truly work as it is intended in terms of using that pot of money to reward your top performers, you need to be aggressive in how you do your ratings, and you need a fairly substantial pool of money to make it meaningful. So I'm recommending as a part of this budget that we do a compensation study next year. That's a one-time expense. I've already done some benchmarking on what that might cost. And I would like to take 1% of the salary budget and set it aside for implementing the results of a compensation study. That's the first step in addressing any areas where we may have shortfalls. If we're losing staff to Montgomery County or other competitors. So that is what I'm thinking right now and what I anticipate you will see fleshed out next week. So.
But the problem that I see with, I am okay with doing the study and stuff. This whole thing with the county and even Blacksburg, especially the county, I have a big issue because it's always a competition between them and us, and we're the same people. I mean, we're the same tax pool.
Right.
And so I think this is one of those reasons why I really want to meet with the
Joint
county.
meeting.
And I want to find out where we are with that, because especially with the SROs and things like that and money, do you have any proposal in any of this budget to request any money, additional money to the county? Because I do think it's important for them to realize. I mean, I heard one of the comments from one of them the other day, the supervisor saying, well, you guys are not really asking much. And so, and I feel like it's great that we talk over here about asking for money, but the message is not being shared, and they are not receiving that. I mean, obviously organizations like the school and everything else, they bug them and for money, and every time it's more and more and more money, but we're not doing that bugging. And I think we are also like the kids of the county. We really need to get this money. So if they're the parents that they make the most money out of our tax pool, I really think it's important to have those conversations, especially since we're talking about, the rescue squad and the fire department. And they need to know that those needs are the things that we're paying for in the town. The increases that they're doing, and they're planning to increase those tax revenues for themselves, how is that going to benefit us additionally to what we're paying right now?
And on this, I don't think we don't benefit from competing because really we're an authority. It makes no sense to compete when you have an authority and you're basically each covering each other's area when you have a situation where both of the people are.
And I think we really need to have those conversations with them. It's not fair for them or us to be doing this to each other. I mean, it's understandable if it was Roanoke City. You know what I mean? But if he's within the same county, that conversation needs to be had.
Yep. So I did reach out to the county administrator after the last conversation. I know the mayor was going to reach out to his counterpart on the board with the county, and I'm actually meeting with Angie Hill on Friday.
Perfect.
So to try to start that dialogue. To answer your other question, I am not assuming any additional revenue from the county as a part of what I recommend, because I don't want to rely on something and end up with a hole in the budget.
I understand.
But your point's very well taken.
right.
And, I know there's been lots of conversation around EMS and fire in particular. The study will inform that more. And then I've heard you about the SROs too.
What about the government shutdown? Do you have anything in here that if we continue with these government shutdowns over the next year, how is that going to, mess up with our budget? Do you have any of those calculations included in this budget? Do you have a cushion besides obviously we have a general, we have savings, but I do want to make sure that we are doing the things that we're telling people that we're going to be doing.
Yep, I'll talk with staff about that in terms of what might be appropriate. We have not had that conversation thus far. Yep, thank you. Yep. On the benefits side, we are seeing an increase in health insurance cost on the town side. My goal is not to pass that along to employees, but handle that on the town's portion of health insurance cost. I don't believe Alicia would disagree with me if I said we've been fortunate in how we've been able to manage those costs over the past few years. However, we are seeing that small increase, so we've already issued an RFP, a request for proposals, on a new consultant, and the proposals have come in and are under evaluation. So that's an important step to making sure we keep that under control. So I'll have more to share on that as that evolves. On the operating cost side, I've asked the departments to share with me the kinds of things in their operating budgets that they're seeing normal inflationary increases, things that are not discretionary. We are seeing a 3% increase across the board roughly in the cost of electricity. There are some contractual increases for contracts we're already obligated to that are normal escalations that are no surprise. And then other normal inflationary costs like fuel and those kinds of things. I will say, and I may need some assistance from Katie on this one, merchant fee cost increases are continuing to go up. And those are the fees that we pay when we accept credit cards. Business licenses is one example where now that folks can pay those online, we are absorbing. Council made the decision years ago that the town would absorb the cost, the convenience fee, if you will, for allowing people to pay with a credit card. That's something that I want to share with you in terms of the numbers so that you can have that policy conversation in terms of the town continuing that practice or if you want to do anything any different.
Can I mention something about that too? Mm-hmm. As far as merchant stocks, I do think it's interesting too that we're talking about this when in reality, when you have a business, you're also collecting those. I mean, you are obviously absorbing those taxes as well. And so just remember that when we think about, seeing those, those fees that we pay, I mean, with any business, especially if you are collecting some type of sales tax, that is a significant amount of money that we collect for the tax base, and so that we are absorbing that right now is a perfect example what business owners have to deal with it on the daily basis.
Yep, I understand. Yep. Yeah, and it may be that you want to change nothing at all, but I feel like because it's going up, I want you to be aware of what it is. Yep, for sure.
And that can also, I'm going to give you an example of what happens with restaurants and stuff. In New Jersey, most restaurants, they charge that tax, a merchant's tax. And so when you go to pay your bill and stuff like that, it's an immense amount of money that you're paying. Obviously, when I was in New Jersey the other day, it was like, I don't remember how much it was, but it was very significant just for like $300 bill. It was like, I think it was $40 in increment, charges to it. And I was like, hell no, I'm not going to those places again, But someone here, there was a restaurant that tried to do that here locally. And they got bombarded with horrible things. And so, obviously, they stopped doing that. And so that's something that I was just going to mention regarding merchant stocks.
Thank you. So I've listed here for you, and this will wrap up some of the operating overview. We're seeing capital equipment needs across most all of our departments. And vehicles is included in this list, and one of the, I call them future work items on my list for after you adopt your budget to put in place is a replacement cycle, a replacement cycle process for equipment and vehicles, so that we have data on depreciation and maintenance cost and mileage and all of the factors that can help us plan for budgeting for vehicles and have kind of a multi-year look at how we do vehicles. These costs are one-time cost. So the generator replacement, there's a list that I'll share with you next week around some of the equipment that's needed at the rec center. Shade structure at Hark Raider, security camera upgrades, and some security analysis for some of our facilities. I mentioned vehicles. EMS equipment, that's another area where if we had a replacement cycle approach, we could fund at a small amount every year, and then we don't have a big impact in any one year. So an example of that would be the power load and cot stretcher systems for our ambulances, for example. So just to give you a flavor of the kinds of things that you'll see next week in the capital equipment. Let's see.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
HVAC replacement. We just
In general?
did, yes. During one of the work sessions last year, there was a question about warranties for the HVACs. Did we ever get one?
A warranty for,
The Aquatic Center HVAC.
oh, the Aquatic Center HVAC. We will with the new system. Yep. Does that
Can we
answer
have
it?
information about that?
I can get that for you.
That'd be great.
Yep.
I have a question for you. Last year, the state was giving not grants, they were giving funding for, and a lot of money was given out, and I think Roanoke was one of those places that got money for shelters, for the building of shelters and the repairment of shelters. And one of those things too was emergency shelters. So I saw right here generator replacements. Is the rec center still one of those facilities that we can use for shelters?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so I'm gonna look for the information to share with you to see
Okay.
about the grants. But is any of those generator replacements that you're asking for, is any of them for the rec center?
I don't think so.
It's new, the generator rec center is like a year old.
I believe this generator would be the last one in the cycle.
Town hall.
To finish out all of our replacements, so we have one here at the town hall that needs to be replaced, and that's the last one on the list. Is that right, Jim? For the facility. For the facilities, yes.
Okay,
Yep.
Thank you. So it's only a generator replacements?
Plural, apparently, yes.
Okay, good.
My fault.
That's-
Okay. This is my favorite part. In thinking about how we modernize and how we become more resilient for the unknown, whatever that might look like, in terms of ensuring consistent service delivery for the town, I've got a list here that I want to share with you where we have some opportunities. So some of these items are one-time cost. It's really an investment in a number of different ways. So let me start with the legacy document scanning. We have so many file cabinets in this building that are taking up space, preventing us from utilizing this building adequately. In addition to that, we have difficulty finding things. So a part of this process will be going through all of those documents, determining what can go in the shredder and what needs to remain, and getting those scanned in so that we can access them with some kind of inventory so they're easily accessible. They've just really piled up in this building, and we have an opportunity to manage that. So that takes a one-time investment for the scanning and then an ongoing, much smaller cost for the storage. So that's one item. Related to that, I mentioned that these file cabinets are taking up space. We need to do a utilization study of all of our facilities in terms of space. We're not maximizing how we're using our space. That goes for this building. It goes for the fire department and some other areas. So we can start small, but we really need to evaluate how we're utilizing our facilities so that we can optimize that. I've talked about this a little bit already, multiple different occasions. Mike will spend some time with us at one of your work sessions talking about the capital plan. We really need to build out a full 5-year capital plan so that we can invest over multiple years. We can build out our debt service model and have a more robust plan. We've got a lot of the information, and we have a really, really solid foundation, but we're ready to take that to the next level too. In addition to that, I would really, I really believe the town would benefit from a 10-year needs assessment. 10 years is a long way down the road, but there are some things that if you don't start planning that far in advance, you're never going to see to fruition.
And you'll include, I guess, all the infrastructure.
Yes, ma'am.
Improvements.
Yes, absolutely. This is one you're familiar with, related to the establishment of the 911 authority and the agreement to purchase radios for emergency services, public works, park and rec. There is a line item in the reserves account where we've started putting money away. $500,000 for this, but that's coming. And this one I'm really excited about, and there are several requests from your departments that feed into this. So I've called this kind of an optimization of service delivery and business processes, but one of the examples of this relates to how we approach employee wellness so that we can not only take care of our employees, but we can drive health insurance claims down, which, we're self-insured, so that saves us money. And how our emergency medical services folks deal with people who call often and may not need transport, how they utilize physician assistant services, and how that could also be leveraged to save money for how the police department does their physicals. I'm really excited about how creative the departments have been in trying to satisfy needs in an innovative way. So, currently, and the chief can speak to this better, but currently, when we're in a position where we have to go to Roanoke, that can cause delays and cause difficulties. So if that's something we can do in-house, then we save money, we save time, et cetera. So more to come on that, but that's just an example.
Are those police department physicals and EMS service physicals supposed to be done every year, or how does that work?
Are they done every year, Chief?
No, ma'am. Our our personnel don't have regular wellness physicals. I mean, they can get them through their private doctor because it's part of their insurance plan. For wellness, you don't incur any cost. So employees do that on their own, but we don't have a requirement that they meet a physical standard every year. We're talking, she's
New.
referencing new employees that we're hiring. They have to take a physical to get hired. And right now we have to send those personnel to Roanoke to a different facility. And it's hit or miss of which doctor they get, whether or not they'll sign off on the academy paperwork, that kind of thing. It's a little different every time somebody goes.
So what is this request entitled? An employee to work for the town to do those wellness?
It would be a
physicals?
different way to utilize staff and EMS associated with an employee that could do that and other things. I'll share the details with you next week. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It benefits 2 or 3 different departments.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You good?
All right. And what about, where are we going to see? I would really like to see too, maybe like the police department to have an addition or something like that to their building. Is there any of the, obviously he hasn't requested from that, but I'm just coming up with my own. I always see like such an, when you were talking about utilization of the spaces.
The PD building
of all
would be
the-
included.
All of them, and that will be included. But, seeing, we talk about what our employees make and how we're trying to compete with everybody else. But have you ever gotten to go to the police department
Yes.
in Blacksburg?
Oh, Blacksburg. No, but I've heard.
Okay.
I've heard it's very fancy.
Yeah, it is. And so not that we want to compete with Blacksburg, but I do know that some of our police officers and stuff, there's a lot of office sharing spaces and things like that. And I was trying to find out, do you have anything like that in the budget for this year at all, or in the future?
The space study would address most of that. We have had some conversation about gym equipment that benefits 2 or 3 departments. But your point's well taken around work environment. Absolutely. But I will go back and look at that particularly to PD. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
about-
ma'am.
I'm going to jump back up.
Sure.
So the legacy document scanning, okay, for, just this kind of paperwork, it's fine. But for maps,
That's
they
included.
do not do well when you scan them. So are we going to save our maps? Are we going to, like, just, if we're not, what you're talking about is doing some of this digitally and then,
Yes,
Then
yes.
get
And
rid
some
of
of the maps will be included too, because there are companies that specialize in
well,
that.
I'm
that
concerned
will do
about whether you're
this.
going to save the physical map, the paper map, because it's not the same. They will get blurred when you try to use those maps sometimes so you're going to save the maps, the paper maps is what I'm asking.
We'll save what we cannot adequately capture digitally. Is that fair? Yeah, we'll have expertise through the company to make that determination. Yep.
But I think Mrs. Humberger, are you speaking about like maps that are historical and things like that? I think we'll still keep some of that information, I'm sure, but I think she's mostly talking about things that, for example, every time we have a rezoning or something like that, there's like 1 million of those maps. I mean, I have probably packs too. But every single one of those packs that we get has a whole bunch of these papers
Yeah.
with a whole bunch of maps and traffic studies and things like that. And I think that that's what they're probably referring to.
Yep.
Isn't that right?
That's a piece of it.
Yeah. So
Okay, we've already talked about the compensation study, so that's definitely on the list. I've already mentioned the rate methodology and cost of service for water sewer. We've already had some preliminary conversation about the money in the current year budget to start phase one of trying to map out what a public works operations complex needs to look like and what that cost is. So that's one of the work items as well. So I'll keep moving into capital projects. So Tracy will send this around for me. Thank you, ma'am. Wait, let me see. This is just stormwater. So there's one, so we need copies. Yeah.
It's nice,
See,
though.
there's a page for every
It's
type.
very
I'm gonna run
informative.
some copies. Yeah.
a specialty.
Okay. So what will be coming around is a spreadsheet for you to take away and think on in anticipation of the work session where we talk about the capital plan. So in summary terms, the total carry forward already funded capital is 42.5 million. You're aware that almost 60% of that is grant funded. So that will move forward from this
What is the
current year.
percentage that is granted?
It's about 57. Yep. So that's one component of the capital plan. Of new request, you can see the totals there for new projects. So there are several projects that are brand new that you haven't seen before at all. And what you'll see on the spreadsheet is a description of the project. So you'll see the dollar amount and a brief description in terms of why it's necessary. And then there's another $10 million requested to add funding to existing projects. So you can see that on the line item details. So what you'll have a list for stormwater, a list for transportation, a list for facilities, a list for water, a list for sewer. So that's what Scott's bringing back. So no decisions tonight, and I had not anticipated getting into this line by line because it's a lot of information. But I did think with the summary description for each item, you could take that away, spend some time with it, and then formulate any questions that you have in anticipation of that dedicated session. So we'll go ahead and talk a little bit about reserve balances. While he's running those copies. This is kind of bringing us up to speed on some of the key items in the reserve balances in current year. I believe you're all aware that the new ambulance and the new fire truck that we've ordered are scheduled to be delivered and paid in this current fiscal year.
What's the amount on that? Can you remind me of
You have the
that?
amounts on those?
I can give you rough numbers.
Billy,
So 367,000 for the ambulance, and what did you say for the fire truck?
2.49.
2.49. Okay. We'll confirm that.
How often do we replace?
We've got the fire trucks on a 20-year replacement. I think the recommended replacement's more like 15 years, but we have one on a 20-year replacement.
Josh?
One of the trucks we're replacing is over 30 years old.
Okay. Josh, how about you? With the ambulances, how often are you replacing those?
If we were to replace them at about 100,000 miles, it would be about every other year with the 4 town pieces.
Is the 367,000 for that one ambulance? Is that the one that we saw the other day, or is that a different one?
That one is not that one, it's actually just.
Oh, okay, so it's a
another.
different one. Okay, thank you.
So while those are coming around, I'll just run through the rest of these. I mentioned earlier, $500,000 reserved for the radios for the regional authority. The HVAC project at Aquatics will be substantially complete in this fiscal year. And then as a placeholder, money has been put into reserve fund for new public works operations facility, and the balance in that current year is 1.4. So there is seed money there to get that project off of the ground. So this list is reserve contributions that would be new if you choose to approve these as a part of the budget adoption process. So as you're aware, the work on the passenger rail is moving along. And there will be a payment somewhere in the neighborhood of $250,000 to $300,000 in FY 28, late 27, 28. I will say that the authority is searching for grants, so that amount might be less, but I'll be recommending that we put some money in a reserve in anticipation of that payment that will be coming due for the station. These next items relate to my comments earlier around equipment replacement and having a cycle and process for those. So this kind of gets us started down that path. The first is cardiac monitor replacement. Those are nearing end of life. And Josh, you jump up if I say something that's incorrect. But we do not. Those are replaced every 5 years. Okay.
And that aligns with when our service plan with them
Runs out. Okay, all right. So 200,000 is estimated for next year's budget, because in 29 we'll need to replace them all at a cost of $500,000 to do them all. So start funding that now is the idea.
How much does each of them cost? And I guess each truck will have one, right?
between 50 and 60,000.
50 and 60. And I imagine the county pays for their own for the rescue squads that we have from them.
The next item is to start to replenish the fire truck replacement fund, anticipating by the time we do our next purchase, the cost of that will be even more expensive than the one we just purchased. And then the same concept for the ambulance replacement. And this just takes us back to the calendar in terms of next steps. So we'll have the presentation next Tuesday. And then I'll start scheduling one-on-one meetings with you all to jump into your individual questions. And then we'll have the 2 work sessions.
All right. What else you got?
I think that's it.
Very good. Well, this is a very different budget presentation that we have ever had, and I think it shows an in-depth of what you have to think about before you present the budget to us. So I appreciate the time and effort that you and Scott and Katie and the entire staff have put into this thing. And, you know, it's, like you say, there's a lot of wishes and there's some that we can and can't fill, but I think it's good for us as a council to understand the process.
Yep, thank you, Mayor. Yep, it was important for me to kind of test some of my assumptions and my approach since I'm transitioning in. And again, I want to thank the departments. They put in a tremendous amount of work, and they put up with me asking lots and lots of questions as I try to get up to speed. So, but we'll be back at the next meeting to talk in more detail.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment too. I am very grateful and pleasantly surprised. Very good job, everybody involved. Thank you.
A question here regarding the stormwater pond evaluation analysis, the project stuff. The request, the additional request, it says 23,600,000. Is that for the study and stuff, or what is the 23 million? Well, no,
Which
what is
page are you
that?
on, Ms. Hicks?
Oh no, that's 23,000. Oh no, that's 23,000. I'm sorry.
You good?
It's under the project thing. So you're requesting 23,000.
That's the evaluation. That's additional money we need to evaluate the stormwater basins.
Okay.
In terms of how we maintain those, to make sure that we protect downstream properties. So yeah. And Mike can talk in more detail about that when we meet, but it's an ongoing of some of that stormwater management.
Can I ask you something regarding those stormwater basins and stuff? I know that when we had those stormwater ponds and stuff like that, for the last years, many of those have been, I believe they have been somehow or another, like, given back to us to take care of or something like that. Or is that something that is a requirement for the builders? There should be a requirement to the developers.
Yep.
Now, are they also required to do any of these studies? Because I do know, like, some of those ponds and stuff like that, it seems like when there is rain, they get over, like flooded and stuff like that. I wanted to find out, do we have?
For doing analysis for their development, if they do any expansions, they have to analyze the ponds themselves. The money that we're talking about here is for existing town-owned facilities to make sure that we're doing what we need to for town-owned facilities.
Okay, does that include this whole thing with over here by the parking lot where we bought all that property over there the other day? I mean, not the other day, but like a year ago or something,
No, I think this line item is specifically for existing ponds.
for the system ponds. So it doesn't include like any storm creeks or things like that that we're dealing with in the town?
Not that particular line item.
Okay. This is really good. Thank you so much. There is a lot of information over here that I guess we'll be starting in. Thank you so much. This is
Thank you all.
wonderful.
So, is there anything else to come from the guts within this work session? If not, I will adjourn and thank you all for your time.